With Supersport sales declining year after year, the GSX-R hasn't seen an update in ages, and the iconic R6 has already been discontinued. That basically leaves just two pure Supersports on the market, the ZX-6R and the CBR600RR. Meanwhile, brands like Yamaha have moved on to a new gen of Supersports, bikes like the R9 that are built to be more practical and street-friendly. So, which one takes the win? And more importantly, which one's actually going to be the right fit for you? The 6R makes 124 horsepower at the crank, 3 more than the CBR, and 5 more than the R9. But when it comes to torque, the R9 delivers 93 Newton meters. That's a whole lot more grunt in the low to mid-range compared to either the 6R or with a rev-happy CBR. The 6R still edges out the CBR a bit in the mid-range, thanks to its slightly larger displacement. As for weight, the CBR hits back, coming in as the lightest at 193 kilograms, followed by the R9, with the 6R being the heaviest. So when it comes to power-to-weight ratio, the 6R and CBR are neck and neck with less than a 1% difference, while the R9 comes in last, trading a bit of top-end punch for a torquey, more usable power delivery where it really counts on the street. The Ninja and CBR both rely on inline-4 engines built with a track-focused mindset, while the R9 uses an inline-3 derived from the MT-09, which explains its torquey, street-friendly power delivery. The CBR has the smallest displacement of the three, which also explains its lower power figures, while the Ninja gets a slight bump with an extra 37cc, giving it a bit more punch in the mid-range compared to the CBR. On the other hand, the R9 packs a much bigger engine that focuses on strong low to mid-range grunt with a lower rev ceiling. The 6R also boasts the highest compression ratio of the bunch. As for valve train, all three bikes use a double overhead cam with 4 valves per cylinder. Power goes to the rear wheel via a 6-speed gearbox. The last update being mostly just a facelift and some minor visual tweaks, the Ninja's definitely showing its age. No IMU, no cornering ABS, not even ride-by-wire. You do get a quick shifter, but it's up only, plus a few riding modes and traction control. Even wheelie control is tied to traction control. There's no slide control, no engine brake control, no launch control, or cruise control. At least it still gets a TFT dash and smartphone connectivity. Next up is the CBR, which lands in second place. With ride-by-wire and an IMU on board, it unlocks cornering ABS, wheelie control, slide control, engine brake control, and riding modes. It also gets a bidirectional quick shifter and a TFT dash. The only things it's missing? Cruise control, launch control, and a multimedia system. And then we've got the R9, which takes the win. It gets everything I mentioned earlier. All three bikes use perimeter-style aluminum frames. For front suspension duties, the Ninja gets show as separate function fork, where one leg handles damping and the other takes care of spring and preload. The R9 goes a similar route, but with KYB's separate damping function fork, compression damping in the left leg, rebound in the right, and preload on both. While the CBR keeps things a bit simpler with a more traditional fork setup. Out back, all three bikes come with fully adjustable monoshocks. When it comes to braking, they're all equipped with radial-mounted 4-piston calipers. Nissan on the 6R, Takako on the CBR, and Brembo on the R9. They all run 120mm tires up front and 180s at the rear, pretty standard stuff for Supersports. Now, not only is the CBR the lightest, it's also the most compact, with a shorter wheelbase that helps make it more agile. It also has the lowest seat height, 10mm lower than the others. On top of that, it boasts the biggest fuel tank, followed by the Ninja, with the R9 having the smallest. As for pricing, we're using UK MSRPs here, since the new CBR600 isn't available in the US yet. The Ninja comes in at £10,599, the CBR isn't far off, only about £400 more, and then the R9 sits quite a bit higher at £12,250. So, which one should you get? If you're after that old-school, rev-happy, track-focused sport bike, you've got the 6R and the CBR. They're a bit less practical on the street because you really need to rev them out to tap into its full potential. But on track, that's where the fun is. Go for the Ninja if you want a bit more punch in the mid-range, or the CBR if you prefer something nimbler with better tech and rider aids. The only downside is the lack of low-end punch, which can make it feel a bit dull at lower speeds. Nothing a sprocket change won't fix, though. Then there's the R9, if you want something more versatile and road-focused, something that's more comfortable for everyday riding. It's not going to be quite as fun on track as the other two, but with its bigger displacement, you get loads of low to mid-range grunt that's super handy for traffic and commuting. Plus, it's at a more relaxed riding position than the Ninja, and definitely more than the CBR, which can feel cramped for taller riders. You also get better electronics and rider aids the others miss out on, like cruise control, launch control, and on top of that, it's also equipped with Brembo brakes, braided brake lines, and winglets.